Good morning everyone. I'm here today at Zalkenze. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today because the lovely people at Dope Snow have given me a couple of pairs of their goggles. The goggles are the Dope Sight goggles for me to have a look at and review and make a video about. So I have got two pairs. I've got one in white and one in black frames. These are the white pink mirror lenses, and I've got the champagne mirror lens here. But I've also ordered myself some other ones. So this is I think the brown lens or red brown lens. It hasn't got a label on it, so I don't know. And also the green mirror lens. So first of all, my normal goggles are these. These are some Von Zipper Jetpacks, and I've had these probably like 10 years now. As you can see, they're pretty ruined. And I've got these ones which I bought last year, and slightly more overcast days I'll wear these ones, and when the weather's looking a bit nicer for the day, like today, I'd wear these ones. These have got a VLT of about 10%, so that's like only 10% of the light gets let through. These ones are like a 40 or 50, I think, so these are for sort of a super cloudy day. Difference is these ones are spherical lenses, which I tend to prefer, which means they're kind of curved in both directions like a sphere, and the Dope ones I've got to test here are cylindricals, which means they only curve in one direction, so they're kind of flat in one plane. So first of all, I'm gonna try them on. So the age-old debate: goggles under or over the helmet. Now I'm 100% a goggle under the helmet kind of guy, but since we're here, for argument's sake and for testing, I'm going to try them out both ways for you. This is them over the helmet. They fit quite nicely. There's quite a lot of space over the nose. They fit quite nicely at the helmet, like there's not really a gap here. They do protrude a little bit, I guess, out, but that's just the difference in profile between this POC helmet and the goggles. It's probably quite a good thing for ventilation though, so yeah. Ow. So under the goggles, so my goggles here, you see they've got the straps and they've got the buckle here, and then the buckle here, and you pull them quite tight. And when I've got them tight enough, these two buckles sit quite nicely, quite far around the back of my head, about here and here. And so when I pull the helmet on, they sit in kind of a nice places to not cause any pressure points, but they actually help hold the helmet on. That's kind of how the helmet doesn't move. These goggles, the strap is maybe a bit bigger, and so when I'm getting it tight enough, I have to pull these really far around to the width, so that these buckles are almost coming around the side where this logo is. Now, what I'm finding here when I've got the helmet on is they're just about here. I don't know if you can see, and it actually is causing a bit of an annoying pressure point on the back of my head. I feel like that would be kind of annoying for me if I was trying to wear these goggles. It's not necessarily an issue with the goggle as such, it's just how I choose to wear the goggles. Maybe a shorter strap would be better, like if you could have a strap which was designed just for people who wanted to wear the goggles underneath the helmet, because I can already feel it now, that the way that the goggles are, they're kind of pushing the helmet up, so I can see it over time that the helmet will go up. I think potentially if I pulled the strap down a bit and then made it even tighter, that might get the two bits out of the way, and that might be a bit more comfortable. I'll try that, but I tend not to like to have the strap too far down, because what happens is then the goggles start to slip down your face like this, and you end up looking like this, and it pinches on your nose, which for me it's not ideal. So first thing, fit under the helmet, not that great. Fit over the helmet, perfectly fine, no issues at all with that. So as I said before, you can get separate lenses for them. So I've got these ones here, these ones here. Now, my goggles, the lens change is really simple and really easy. You can do them without actually taking them off. In fact, I'll demonstrate. When I've got them on, two buttons, top and bottom. You can just pop the lens out. You can pop the new one in, so you don't even have to take the goggles off to be able to swap them out. That's super handy. There's loads of goggles on the market at the moment which also have magnetic lenses which you can swap out. So I've never actually tried to swap the goggle lenses on this, so I don't actually know what I'm doing, but I guess I just pull. Okay, so on these you can't do them on the fly, you have to take them off, but you basically pull them from the top and the kind of lens just nicely comes out. Not too difficult to be honest, but not the easiest way. You can't do that quickly on a lift, which I think is maybe a little bit of a downside. Putting them back in, you've got to hook this ridge, like sandwich it into this rubber, which is a little bit fiddly, and you've got to then obviously get your hands all over the lenses, which gets them a bit greasy and dirty. But okay, a bit of a faff, but perfectly simple, and you know, with no magnets or buttons and stuff, they're not gonna break. So I guess it's kind of like a simplicity thing. Just as a quick note, I think I've got 4 lenses here. I've got the pink mirror, I've got champagne mirror, I've got red, brown, and this green mirror. The weather today is lovely. It's a blue sky day. These lenses here and these lenses here, super not suitable today for this kind of weather. So we'll see how they go. What I'm gonna try and do, and this is a bit of an experiment, is I'm going to see if I can film and somehow take the grade of each lens and put it onto the film so that you guys at home can see roughly what I'm seeing through the lens. I have no idea how well that will work, but hopefully it will give you a general idea of how dark the dark lenses are, how bright the light lenses are, and what kind of color you get, and how well you can see like the bumps in the snow and stuff. Yeah, hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of what the lenses are like themselves. Right, get onto the slope. Really is a beautiful day today. Decided that I'm just going to use all of the lenses with the black frames, because there's no point in bringing 2 sets of frames up when essentially the frames are identical. I think I prefer the white frames, if I'm honest, if I was going to wear them, but since I'm wearing the goggles over the helmet and I've got a black helmet, I figured that it might look a little bit less silly to have a bright white strap on it rather than a black one, so we're going to go with the black strap. First goggles I'm trying are these champagne mirror. Like first looks, they're a lot brighter than my normal goggles, which are like a super dark orange tint. These look a lot more natural and yeah, maybe slightly pinker, slightly bluer. It's a really bright day and I'm not squinting at all, which is obviously the best first impression you can have with the goggles. These are probably the right kind of VLT lenses for this kind of day. So try to get the helmet camera on and trying to switch the grade to something which gives you a better indication of what I'm looking at now. So yeah, hopefully now you'll see what I can see. Really is a lovely day to be skiing. This is probably the best weather I think we've had all season. Snow's a little choppy. I guess it was probably quite fresh this morning. Woo! But lots of people have skied on it already, so fairly typical sort of afternoon type of snow. Okay, so in the shade I can kind of see the bumps. The goggles are really quite nice. Like, it's a bright day obviously, so not really ever going to have any proper issues with seeing the shadows and the bumps and stuff, because it is so bright out today. I'm not squinting at all, which is sometimes an issue I've had with some goggles on really bright days. So they're quite light on my face as well. The goggles are quite like that. I mean, I don't really notice I'm wearing them, to be honest. Sometimes you get like a little bit of a pinch on your nose, but I haven't got that. I feel like I can breathe pretty easily. I think I'm going to head over and do that black run over there. Haven't done it this season yet, so usually it's one of my favourite runs in this resort. But yeah, I'm just going to go down into the shadowy bit and see what it's like. Like, the big bit for me is in the shadow is, can you still pick out the difference between the sort of lighter parts? And yeah, in the shadow, I mean, these aren't big bumps at all, so they're not casting huge shadows, and I have absolutely no problem in seeing the difference between the bits at all. So I think actually these are probably a little bit better in these conditions than my normal goggles, where, you know, as soon as it does get a little bit shady, I really do struggle to maybe pick out the differences. Oh, look at these bumps here, these are fun. Woo! Woo! Woo -hoo -hoo -hoo. It's good when you can see the bumps, because then you can go straight over the bumps. Okay, that was quite a good test. Nice little difference, had some light bits and some dark bits. So far so good with these goggles. One thing probably worth saying, I'm not being sponsored by Dope, to do this video. I know Tom, who heads up their community side really well, and we were talking about goggles, and he was using the dope goggles, and to him that I would like to do a video where I reviewed the goggles and just see what they were like, and he kindly offered to send me a couple of sets with some lenses. So obviously I took him up on the offer, but you know, I'm not being paid to say anything about this. As much as I'm not a reviewer in any way or a professional at this, I'll try and give you as much of an honest feedback as to what I think of them. One thing I would say is that while they are still quite light, and I don't really, for the first couple of runs I didn't feel them on my face. After I've worn them for a bit now, I'm starting to notice that there's a bit of a pressure point here on my nose. Now, that's not to say that anyone else wearing them would have the same thing. It's probably the shape of my face, but I'm starting to feel like a little bit of pressure right on the bridge here, which is not uncomfortable yet, but a little bit annoying maybe, and I feel like they're sitting where I'd want them to sit. I wouldn't want them any higher, so I feel like maybe it's just my face shape doesn't really work with these goggles that well. For the moment, we'll see how it gets. I might just get used to it and forget about it later on, but yeah, I think I've got to do one more run with these lenses and then swap them up. I'm going to go the other side, check out another set of the bright lenses, so I think the green mirror ones that I've got with me as well, while it's still super bright, and then I'll save the other lenses for when it's maybe a little bit dark, and I'll try hit some more runs that are more in the shadows, because obviously it's not really a fair test to test some sort of super low light lenses in this bright sunshine here. Woo. The snow is so nice today, just bounce between little bumps. Woo. Woo. This is where it starts to get busy. People are kind of crowded around a little bit. Woo. In the slightly shaded up bit here, can't really see as well as I could before, but the lens is still pretty good. Woo-hoo-hoo. Woo-hoo-hoo. Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. That was a lot of fun. I'm going to change the lenses now. Handily, for those of you who have the Icon pants, the spare lenses fit into the leg pocket. I've got 3 lenses here with me, and they fit really nicely into the pocket and kind of curve around your legs. So that is a little Pete's tip for anyone who is you can easily bring all the lenses you need with you. I've actually come up to here to do this because it's quite easy doing it when you're next to the car and it's all warm, not top of the mountain in the wind. It's not the coldest day here today, but doing something like changing your lenses, you know, typically you're doing it when the conditions change, sometimes from good conditions to bad conditions. It's usually pretty crap weather when you're doing that. So getting the lenses out is pretty easy, as I've showed you before. Getting them in, a bit more fiddly. Bit of a word of like warning to people who might have lenses and are buying new lenses. There's actually a new shape goggle. There's the 2021 spec, and then there's the normal ones, and the lenses don't line up properly with each other. There's a slightly different shape, and as bad luck might have it, I might have inadvertently bought the old shape lenses, as these don't look like they fit that well. That is annoying. That's a bit disappointing, because these were marketed as the 2021 lenses that I bought. I was kind of careful to try and make sure that they did fit, but it looks like they don't. Not ideal, but for the sake of the video, can I ski with them like this? Okay, they don't really fit. Fuck, that's so annoying. There's a complete gap on the side, so I feel like if I ski with them, my eyes will water. But for the sake of science, I'm going to try it anyway. That's a little bit of a word of warning, because I thought I was being really careful when I bought the lenses to buy the right shape, and clearly I haven't. We'll carry on and we'll see what these ones are like. I think they're in enough that they're not going to fall out, so we'll try these. You should now be seeing what I can see. I feel like these are a little darker than the other lenses. I'm not sure what the VLT on them is, but they feel a little bit darker. The colours is kind of, I guess it's like orange and teal. Do you know what it reminds me of? When you watch a film and you have that kind of teal or orange look. These are kind of what the goggles feel a bit like. I feel like they're a little darker. Oh, a nice little bumpy section just to see the contrast first. Perfect. I mean, nice and light, but you can see the bumps really well. Woo. I didn't see that one. Woo. 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 Okay, so I am getting a bit of wind through the goggles. On the top one I can see they're quite nice. This bit's a little bit more shady, so we'll see what they're like. You can still see the bumps quite well actually. You can still make them out. And then obviously they're more designed to be used in these kind of bright sunshiny conditions. Woo! Oh, this is nice. Woo! Woo, woo, woo. Oh, I like this run. They're not too bright. It's still a still really bright day. I'm not squinting at all. There's good definitions between the dark and the light. This is actually the woman's downhill run here in Zalkensee. It's quite a nice little, woo! Okay, that's a good test. Couldn't see any of the bumps here. Woo! Oh, oh man, the little kiddie here. Oh, this is a really good test of being able to see the bumps, and so far I can. Oh, these bumps get formed where people get kind of scared and slam on the brakes, and try and avoid these kids here. Go through the middle. Woo! Woo! Whoa! This is fast! Okay, I can kind of see when it's a little bit flatter and the bumps aren't so pronounced. It's a little bit more difficult to see in the more shadowy conditions. Definitely not as easy as the other mirrored ones I just tried on, but still perfectly doable. So you can see that the goggle, what I was saying about the lenses just do not fit this goggle. They've obviously changed the shape. Frames are a bit big. I can see out at the side of them, but weirdly, although there's like obviously a bit more wind coming through, and it's not really enough to make my eyes water, so it's actually not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And the goggles seem to hold the lens in quite well just by pinching between the top and the nose. That issue I mentioned before about my nose and it being pinched, it's still there. It's not really hurting, it's more annoying, but it's not getting worse. I thought it might bump and chafe a little bit and it might start to really irritate me, but halfway through the day and they're still not that bad. So I think these goggles they're definitely slightly darker. I think in the brighter stuff, like direct in the sun, I think they're maybe a little bit better. I didn't squint with the goggles I had on before, but I feel like these are definitely better in the bright sunlight. When you're in the shadows and the bumps are quite big, you can still see the bumps quite well because they're quite well defined. There's a lot more shadow to them. When you're on something where there's not quite so much height to the bumps themselves are a little bit flatter, but they're definitely there. These were a lot more difficult to spot them than slightly lighter goggles I just had on before. I would say that these ones are definitely more for your like completely bright white day, and you might struggle a little bit when you get into sort of like the end of the day, like the sun's gone behind the mountains and the pieces are all chopped up. I can see that being a really tricky part of the day to wear these, but you know, that's why you would probably just change the lens to a lighter one, so I don't see it being that big an issue in terms of the goggles themselves. Woo. Woo. Way. Oh, dropping this little red bit here. Woo. Oh, this is nice. I don't think I've ever skied this before. Woo. Woo, woo. Okay, it's got busy here. Let's go straight through these guys. Woohoo! It's amazing how much your eyes adjust to a lens. I just took them off and everything looks really green. So you obviously get used to what the color looks like and maybe your brain corrects for it on the other side. But I quite like that lens. I don't think it's as much of an all-round lens as this one. Next one I'm going to try red brown. Now this is a lens which has, I'm guessing, the highest VLT, which means it's for the lowest light. This has no mirror on it at all. So I'm not a big fan of lenses without any sort of mirror on them. I just feel like they look a bit basic. I don't really like the way they look on the face. This should be a little bit better in the really poor light that we're starting to get now in the shadows. Like most of the runs on this side of the mountain that I'm in now are in the shade now, so a lot of the bumps can't properly be seen. So this lens is designed a bit more towards that, so should be a little bit better in these conditions, I think. Again, it's not the right lens for the new shape. It doesn't fit, as I said before, with the other one. I'm sure I ordered the right lenses because the reason I only have 4 lenses, and I think they also do a red chrome and a silver chrome. The reason I didn't get the silver chrome and the red chrome is because I couldn't find them with the 2021 spec, which is what these goggles are. So I bought these ones thinking that they were the right lens. It's more likely, if I'm honest, to be my mistake. In case you're wondering how I'm getting the grade for each of these reviews, so I don't know if it will work, but what I'm doing is I'm taking a picture with the GoPro like this, and then I'm putting the GoPro through the lens and taking another picture. Work out the difference between the two photos, then I will try and put that grade onto the head cam stuff, so you can kind of see what I can kind of see. Hopefully that'll give you a kind of clue as to what it's like to ski with these goggles and what you can see. So I'm now gonna change it to this new lens, so like that. You can probably see what I can see. These are actually quite a nice color. They're a bit more pinky red. I mean, it's not that bright anymore, but I'm certainly not squinting, so they're not super low light lenses. This run I'm going to do is significantly more in the shade than the last couple I've done, so this is probably more like the lens you would want to be picking for this time of day or these kind of light conditions. If anything, I feel like actually not as easy to pick out the bump as maybe the other lenses were. So even though they're letting a bit more light in, there's not really as much contrast. I'm really struggling to work out whether there's any bumps on this or not. I might go back onto one of the runs I've already done where I've got a bit of a bench mark, but I absolutely really can't see many of the bumps here. So for a low light lens, and it is bumpy, for a low light lens, these are not really for me doing the job. Oh Jesus, yeah, that is super bumpy there, and I couldn't see hardly any of them. So actually really struggling with these. Yeah, this is really tricky. It's like it's almost seeming to make them flatter. Maybe it is just because the sun really has gone down now, but it's only maybe 10 minutes since I filmed with the last lens, and oh god, I feel it's really tricky. Either that or the run is really bumpy, but okay, maybe a bit, there's a little bit of sunlight residual here, but yeah, gee, when it's flat in the complete shade I can't see anything. Really struggling. Tired legs doesn't help with this one either. Yeah, I don't think this is the lens for me. I'm not really a big fan of this one. I might just be being horrendously unfair because the sun really has gone down now in this bit, so they haven't got much of a mirror. They do feel like a very basic lens. But yeah, we'll go up the other side and see if they're any better on the other side of the run, which is a little bit more not in the sun completely, but is a little bit more in the shade and maybe has a bit more residual sun on it rather than being completely in the valley and flat
yeah, let's not write them off completely, but it's not looking good for the red browns. I'm kind of giving these lenses one last chance because I wasn't really impressed with them on the last run I did, but it was super flat light, and so maybe it was a bit unfair that I hadn't ridden that run before. Okay, so in the sun they're okay, but you know, most lenses in the sun are okay, so that's not that impressive really. God, it's busier now. Woo! Woo. Oh God, late in the day this hurts. Oh, Shulligan, I'm so sorry. I had a lot more spray than I thought I was going to do. Oh, I feel quite bad about that. Oh. Final lens change. I really do think it's a bonus to be able to change the lenses on the fly really quickly and not have to like take the goggles off. Do you know what, for me this is too fiddly. I mean, when I've got my other goggles on, I will sometimes in the middle of the run it can take me 30 seconds, and this is taking considerably more, and it's a faff. Okay, so last lens of the day. First thoughts. Then, I mean, you would not wear these in a bright day. These are, even the sun's pretty low now, and I'm squinting because it's a bit too much light coming through. I feel like these are probably the highest VLT of the four that I've got. So in theory, should be the best in the flat light. Yeah, I can still see the bumps on this bit, but this bit was all right before. Yeah, in the bright sunshine, there may be a bit bright even now. Like it's quite late in the day. I think it's nearly 4 o'clock, and although the sun's not at its highest, I think in the middle of the day these really would be too bright. Woo! I'm enjoying that shifty today. This bit really is getting chopped up now. I'm going to try sticking the shade to give me the best view of these low light lenses. Oh, okay, back into the sun. It's a little bit too bright really. To avoid these people here, put some turns in. Whoa. Woo! The colour of these ones is kind of like a reddy pink, a bit orangey. They don't really do much to darken any of like the light bits. They do a little bit of a better job in the low light stuff. Oh, this is bumpy. Whee! Bump. Oh. Okay, here I really can't see any bumps at all. So that, but like that one there was huge, and it just shattered my ankles, and I didn't really see it at all. So this is probably the worst kind of conditions for any goggle. I don't know if the camera picked up just how big that was, but that's a bit of a shock to the system hitting that. Whew, okay, these are better at picking out some of the bumps in the lower light stuff, but when it's super flat like that, I don't think many goggles have a chance, to be honest. But nope. So I'm gonna hit to that gondole. Whoa. I've got good edges and there's just nothing to bite onto. A bit more into the snow. Okay. Actually, visibility on that was pretty good. See, so love the view as you get off this lift. I think this must be one of the best views in the whole of the sort of snow space Salzburg area. Mega. Mega, mega, mega. Time for a picture, I think. I think we can agree that other side of the mountain is not great for any goggles. I won't hold it against either this or the red pair, to be honest. It was super flat. Let's not hit any of those massive moguls. Whew. God, it is Mowgli down here. Always amazes me how bumpy it can get at the end of the day. Oh, and it's just when you don't want it to be Mowgli because your knees are absolutely fucked. Oh. I do like these lenses. They're slightly mirrored, quite bright, let a lot of light in. Woo! Usually it's quite chopped up at the end of the day, and let's say today is no exception. Watch out for this sort of kidwink. Try and avoid him. Oh. Woo. Okay, getting slightly bumpier here. Woo. Woo. That was bumpy as fuck. At this time of the day, you just kind of have to ride over some of them, to be honest, and just accept that your knees are going to take the brunt of it. Woo. Like that. Oh, there's always a line where there's slightly less bumps than everywhere else. Key is to try and find that line. So like here, there's not much snow on it, but there's also not many bumps on it, so woo. Woo. Oh. 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 That was fucking fun. Oh. Okay, time for a drink, I think. End of the day. I've tested the dope goggles with 4 different lenses. First one I tested was this champagne mirror. I think this one was my favorite all round. The light was not really as flat, but I didn't find that even when I went through shadows that I had any problems seeing the bumps. So I really like that, and it didn't make me squint at all. So I think that was possibly my favorite one. This one was the other bright light lens. I like them, but I think they're a little bit maybe too dark for an all-round lens, so they're good. I like the color of these. It was a bit more contrasty, sort of reddy pink, but I remember thinking the color on these ones, like looking through them, was the nicest, but maybe a little bit too dark and not great when you go through the bits of shadow. You kind of lost all definition of the bumps and stuff in the shadow, so not very good. Least favorite by a mile, these ones. I don't like the look of them. I don't like completely clear with no mirror. I skied them once on a really flat bit of piste. Couldn't really see anything, wouldn't buy them, don't really know what the purpose is of them. They're not good enough in flat light, they're not really good in bright light, or I didn't try them in bright light, but you know, for bright light you've got mirrored finishes and lower VLTs, so I don't really know why you'd get these ones, so not for me. And then I finished with these ones, which I think is the pink mirror. I like these. They're maybe a little too high VLT for like a super bright day. I skied them right at the end of the day. The sun was really low, and it was still a little bit on the borderline of having to squint because it was quite bright. That being said, I think if I was going to pick 2 lenses, I'd have this one for the bright days, because I think it has the most overlap of being good enough to use in bright days, and towards the end of the day, if it got a bit flat, you could probably get away with it without having to change the lens, which I think would be a problem with this. I think you'd have to change the lens on this one towards the end of the day. This one you could get away with not. And then I would also have this one for like low or flat light days, because it's mirrored, but it's still quite high VLT, and I felt like it was a nice lens to have, and I didn't really have any issues with it. So these 2 would be my choice, the champagne and the pink. Would I buy the goggles myself? I think probably not. 2 main reasons. Well, 3 main reasons. I prefer a spherical lens. Sometimes with these lenses, the cylindrical, when I used to ride them, I felt like I got a bit more of a headache or my vision was a bit distorted at the sides. That being said, I think these are a lot better now. This lens technology, you don't get that anymore. So maybe that's not a consideration, but I think I prefer the aesthetics of a spherical lens over a cylindrical. So that's just personal preference. But I have got really used to a lens that clicks in and out. And I think for me, that's kind of a non-negotiable on having a goggle with changeable lenses, because the whole point is quicker and easy to do it. You're more likely to do it, therefore you're more likely to change to the better lens. And I probably wouldn't stop in the middle of a slope, take my helmet off, take my goggles off, to have to take the lens out and then fiddle with bending the rubber back around to do it. So I think it's easy enough to do it in a bar or at home and switch between a sunny lens and a flat light cloudy day lens. I don't think it's quick enough that you would do it on the fly on the slopes, and so that's something that I do quite often do with my goggles. So magnetic or click in and out without having to take my helmet off is like a must for me. That being said, that's not for everyone. Some people can't be bothered to do that, so if that's you, then these are perfect for you, and they're really not that difficult to do, and they are quite simple to change, if not a bit fiddly. The other reason I think is, and this is that hard one to do because I've been given them to review, I think they're probably a little bit too expensive for what they are. I think these retail at like 129 euros, and off the top of my head, I feel like the lenses or the goggles you can get from Naked, Optic, Spect, and Melon, maybe to name some others, there's probably more, are I think a little bit cheaper from what I've seen without doing any research like prior to this. And the price of this feels like it puts them more into like your Anon base level Oakley, Von Zipper, Dragon lens kind of territory. And for me, that pricing puts them in a bracket amongst other goggles, where I think the lens technology is probably very, very equivalent to this, but the technology in the goggles and the lens swapping capability is not as good here. So are they a little bit too expensive? Possibly. I think if these were 80 to 90 euros, it would be a perfect price point where you'd say you'd forgive them not having the quick lens changing, because they're cheap and they're super practical and function and they look really good. And for me, Dope Snow is more about having technology or capability above their price point. And what I mean by that is all the quality of the clothing is top notch, and they put a lot of effort into the clothing, and it sits at a level where I feel like they could probably charge 100 euros more and you would still buy it based on pure capability. But they are providing that super affordable option for a lot of people to have super stylish stuff at a really affordable price. And I feel like the goggles maybe fall slightly outside of that. They're not as reasonably priced as the outerwear and the thermals and all the other stuff they sell is, to the point where I feel like it maybe makes them sit a little bit off-brand. But that is obviously just my personal opinion. Like I said, I feel like if this were $80 to $90, I think you'd be crazy not to snap them up as a bargain if you're trying to buy everything on one go, you know, goggles, gloves, blah, 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 everything else. You could complete your outfit with a 6 set of goggles that are not going to fog up, they're going to perform really well, and they're going to look pretty sick. For 120 odd dollars, I think it's, or euros, I think that's maybe pushing it a little bit in terms of price. But again, that's just my personal opinion. I think that's it for my first ever review of technical goggles. I hope you liked it. I'm going to finish my beer and put these goggles away and then go home. So yeah, see you next time.